What's going on, everybody? My name is Corbin. I am the head strength coach at Allegiant Gym South Bay, and this is your Ask Me Anything for Block 11. Let's dive right into it. This is going to be a short and sweet one today. All right, so diving right into this first question. So why on earth would we ever do a 10-second eccentric like we have here during the Caron Method? So for those of you who don't know, the Caron Method is named after one of the Allegiant founding fathers, Tim Caron, where if you read the Behind the Block, the blog post for this block, he tells a very enlightening story about his time working with interns and why this is called the Caron Method. But moving on from that, we can look at tempo as just another lever that we can pull in our programming. So we have things like volume, or how many reps per set, in addition to how many sets we do in a given workout. We have things like intensity. Intensity in a lot of cases is going to be determined by what the volume is, right? As the volume goes up, typically intensity or the weight that we're using goes down. You could throw tempo in as another version of volume, right? And so what the muscle is really responding to is tension and time under tension. So by increasing the amount of time under tension per a given rep, you're really just pulling another lever in regards to stuff like intensity, volume, in this case, tempo or time under tension, as well as maybe if we're thinking back to that metabolic conditioning block, something like density. Now, there are some structural changes that we're going to get within the muscle tissue, specifically when we are focusing on this long of an eccentric. But that's really only going to lead to more muscle soreness for you guys. With that more muscle soreness, we might get a little bit more overall tissue growth. But in all reality, what you guys need to know and focus on is that just like we change our intensities and just like we change our volume, part of that is to give a new stimulus to the system to make sure that we continue to adapt once we've started to adapt or almost fully adapted to the previous training stimulus, as well as keep our joints and our tissues feeling good, meaning that if we just always did 5 sets of 5 or 4 sets of 12 of the same movement patterns repeatedly forever, eventually stuff would start to creep up, like overuse injuries, tissues, tendons, ligaments, that stuff would break down. And by changing our sets, reps, and tempos, focusing on different strength qualities and that sorts of thing, then we get to avoid or mitigate some of those overuse injuries. So we can look at tempo at that front. Once you get into athletic performance, and if you've read Coach Caron's book, Strength Deficit, there might be more of a purpose to using these longer eccentrics. But for our case, it's just another way to keep training interesting. My next question is from the strength block. So strength block has 6-12 method. We go a first set of 6 at a heavier weight, a second set of 6 of 12 at a lighter weight, back to that set of 6 with the heavier weight, and then we finish with the lighter weight of 12. Now, why would we do something like this? Well, one, we can kind of focus on two ends of the strength spectrum at the same time. So the lower the volume, the heavier the weights. So that first set of 6, we are looking at building true strength. That is going to be a 2-second down. So again, if we're looking at time under tension, then we only have really 12-ish seconds time under tension. That's going to be relative strength. That's going to be a really good opportunity for our members to go really, really heavy. Versus when we get into those sets of 12, now we're looking at a little bit more volume. It's going to cause a little bit more muscle damage or a little bit more tissue damage. It's going to cause a little bit more soreness, lead to a little bit more muscle growth. So those sets of 12 get a little bit more of a hypertrophic effect in there when it comes to muscle growth. And these two are going to potentiate off of each other. Those heavier weights are going to lead to increased motor neuron excitability or recruitment, and hopefully lead to us using a little bit of a heavier weight on those sets of 12. My next question is about supplements. So this person asks what supplements we should take before, during, and after our workout. So this is kind of a loaded question, and a lot of it is going to depend on your goals specifically, whether you want to lose weight, gain muscle mass, or kind of maintain where we're at. And might even play into what kind of block we're in, whether we're in an intensification block or an accumulation block. So let's go ahead and break that down. So starting with before your workout, one, we want to hydrate. I know that's not a supplement, but we want to make sure, even if we're training at 5:30 in the morning, that we're getting some type of water in our bodies first thing before we come into the workout. So if that means you get up at 5 o'clock and you chug 12 ounces of water before coming in. That's great. It's better than nothing. Now with that, something that we might want to utilize would be caffeine. Caffeine is often not thought of as a supplement, but it's a very, very powerful supplement, especially for those of us training early in the morning. Now, there's plenty of different ways to get your caffeine in. What I'm going to recommend is either black coffee or even maybe a caffeine pill. So black coffee, there's not a ton of calories in it. There's enough caffeine to kind of get you going. And depending on how much time you have in the morning before your workout, that might be a really good option. For me in particular, when I'm working out early in the morning, I don't like having a hot beverage, a hot coffee right before my workout or even during my workout. So I'm going to save that towards later. And that's where something like maybe either a caffeine supplement that could be in like a pre-workout or a powder, or it can be in a pill form. And that's going to be probably a good go-to to get caffeine in the system. Now with powders, you want to look at what else is in there. A lot of times those pre-workouts have the main two things are going to be caffeine and beta-alanine. Beta-alanine is what gives you that kind of tingle feeling. And those are great for pre-workout supplements as long as they're not taken too late in the afternoon. But you can also just get a pill that has caffeine in it. And that might be a really good option for those of us training really, really early in the morning. Now, we do want to be careful when we get into the afternoon and evening hours. If we're coming in for a 6 p.m. workout, I'm definitely not using caffeine as a supplement prior to my workout. Other things that we might look at might be something like alpha GPC if we're in an intensification block. So typically when the weights are heavier and the volume's lower, then we don't get maybe the same muscle fatigue or muscle soreness lingering days after a workout. We might have a little bit more chronic overall fatigue, maybe a brain fog feeling, and our motivation to train might go down because of it. Alpha GPC is a supplement that really helps to mitigate that brain fog or increase our motivation to train. Another good before workout one would be phosphacidic acid or PA7. And this is for somebody who's looking to add muscle mass. That is a phospholipid that is going to help stimulate the mTOR pathway. The mTOR pathway, what we need to know about that is it's an anabolic pathway. It is there to build muscle. So when we are post-workout, that mTOR pathway is elevated, and that helps us utilize our carbohydrate to build muscle mass. That's what we're looking for, utilize the amino acids that are in our system to build muscle mass. So PA7, which it says right there on the bottle, take 3 to 5 pills before your workout. That could be a good supplement for pre-workout. Now let's move into intra-workout or peri-workout nutrition. In this case, for a lot of people, this is where we're going to take stuff like our creatine, our amino acids, maybe depending on the length of the workout, a carbohydrate, maybe depending on the length of the workout, some type of like electrolytes or something like that, right? And so a lot of this peri-workout nutrition is going to depend specifically on what your goal is. So let's start with weight loss. If we're looking to lose weight, we want to make sure that what we're taking in is probably, fairly low calorie if it's anything more than water. So when we are in a caloric deficit, one of our biggest emphasis lies on increasing our protein intake because we're decreasing all of our calories, but we want to make sure that we're getting adequate amount of protein to recover from our workouts and try to mitigate any muscle loss that caloric deficit is going to cause. So one thing that we might do peri-workout would be amino acids. And this is really, really important if we're struggling to hit our overall protein intake throughout the day. And all this does is it puts amino acids, which is the building blocks of protein, into the system. And that way we're not breaking down muscle tissue and using those amino acids for energy. Our amino acid pools are topped off and we're ready to go on that front. Now, there are a few different forms of amino acids out there. You might see BCAAs or essential amino acids, EAAs. That's definitely the one that we're looking for. There's nothing wrong with BCAAs or branched-chain amino acids, but there are 2 categories of amino acids. One's called essential, one's called non-essential. The non-essential amino acids, our body has the ability to synthesize, so we can get those amino acids through our stuff we already have going on in the system. versus the essential amino acids. Those are amino acids that we have to get in through our diet. So again, if we're in a caloric deficit and we're struggling to hit our protein goal, we're probably not doing a good job of getting those essential amino acids from our diet. So supplementing EAAs or essential amino acids might be a really good option for us. Moving into, if we're trying to maintain weight, we get a lot of bandwidth here for what we should be taking peri-workout. So we could still, if we're struggling to hit our protein intake, we could still take our essential amino acids. This is where we might want to use some type of a carbohydrate supplement. If our training is really, really hard and particularly high volume, that sort of thing, we might use something like a UCAN. That is a starch that's going to increase blood sugar a little bit and keep it maintained versus having a really big spike. And that's going to give us prolonged energy, so to speak. So that might be an option for you, or even something like some electrolytes or that sort of thing might be a good option if we're just looking to kind of maintain where we're at, particularly when the weather is warmer and we're sweating a lot. We might look at something like an electrolyte to help replace the electrolytes that we're losing through our sweat. Now, if we're looking to gain weight, again, in the workout, we definitely want to focus on some type of carbohydrate, just the same way I talked about keeping our amino acid pools full, keeping our glucose stores full. So when we go through a workout, we are going to use whatever sugar, whatever glucose is in the blood. We're going to start to use stored glucose in the form of glycogen, and that's getting pulled out of the muscle and out of the liver. And so we want to try to replace that stuff as rapidly as possible so that we can take advantage of the mTOR pathway, because we took our PA7 before the workout, and we are really, really setting the system up to add muscle mass and use the caloric surplus we're in to build lean tissue. On top of that, for all three, whether we're looking to gain weight, lose weight, or maintain, we might think about also using creatine. I like to do creatine during my workout just because I know that then I'm going to at least for sure get it in for that day. It doesn't really matter whether you take it before, during, or after, as long as you're taking 5 grams a day every day for the rest of your life. But intra-workout is a great way to do it, especially if we're already mixing powders for essential amino acids or electrolytes. The creatine typically doesn't have any flavor. It's unflavored, so just throw it in there. And that ensures you're getting it 3 to 4 days out of the week when you get your workouts in here at Allegiant. So post-workout, this is where a lot of people will have a protein shake, and that doesn't matter if we're looking to lose weight, gain weight, or maintain. It's a good idea to have that protein after the workout at some point. If we're hitting 1 gram per pound of body weight through our diet, then we don't need to supplement with a protein supplement. But a lot of times that is a very difficult thing for people to do, and a protein supplement is a great way to get an extra 20 to 30 grams in, and doing it right after your workout is a great way to get that done. Again, we want to think about our routines here. Structuring our routines around our workout is one way to really build good habits. As far as other things that you might take in post-workout, again, maybe a carbohydrate shake. If you are looking to gain weight, that's when those simple sugars are going to be used most effectively to add lean tissue. But outside of that, there's really nothing that I feel really good about recommending without having some type of background. Now, a lot of these supplements that I just mentioned, I gave you kind of pre or intra or post, but like creatine, for example, you can take that whenever, as long as you're getting 5 grams a day every day for the rest of your life. It just might be good to build a routine around doing it at that specific time, intra-workout, versus something like collagen. Collagen can be a really, really good supplement, especially if we are experiencing joint pain or under recovery, something along those lines. And it doesn't really matter when you take it. Just the less that I have to mix powders, the better. So I'm probably going to use that intra-workout with my electrolytes or my carb shake or my essential amino acids. Or I might do that post-workout and add it to my protein shake. It really just depends on making sure that you are using that supplement on a consistent basis and you're not just collecting half-empty pills and powders at home. Another great supplement might be glutamine or a fiber supplement, but those aren't really structured around your workout so much as they are just making sure that you take them and understand the reason behind why you would be taking them. And last question. Somebody asked me this week if I hate running. And the answer is no, I don't hate running. I know during some of these Ask Me Anythings, I have kind of been very skeptical of telling people to run. And that's not the case. I actually run a couple days a week myself, nothing super long distance or super fast. But I do think it's a great way to work on your zone 2, zone 3, zone 1 cardio. And that's a really, really important thing for people to work on outside of Allegiate. Building up your cardiorespiratory base is going to help you recover in between workouts. It's going to make your heart a lot healthier. It's going to help you live a lot longer. It's definitely not something that we want to overlook. Now, the problem with running is that typically, from a cardiorespiratory standpoint, we can do more of it than our tendons, ligaments, and joints or tissues are ready for. So if I go out on a run for my very first time in multiple months, from a ligament standpoint, I might only be ready for 20 minutes. And we got to think of running as a repeated, very small range of motion, high force activity. But from a cardiorespiratory standpoint, I might be able to go for 40 minutes. Now I've just doubled that. And it's a lot of stress that our tendons, joints, and ligaments aren't prepared for. And that's where you start to see some of these overuse injuries. Plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, knee pain, low back pain, all of these kind of vague terms where my knee hurts, my low back hurts, my foot hurts. A lot of times those people just bit off more than they could chew in their running to begin with. So it's really important to have a very short leash when you start something like running and not push to a point where there's no return or no recovery from. So start off with way, way less than you think you're capable of and slowly add volume over sessions. Just like it's never a good idea to come into the gym and shoot for a whole bunch of pull-ups. You're going to walk out and be like a T-Rex and your arms are going to be super sore the next day. We want to build up to that over time. Same thing when you go and do a run. So that's why a lot of times I recommend something like either walking, biking, swimming, something that's a little bit lower impact and a little bit less skill dependent for some of these cardiorespiratory or cardio zone 2 work. Running though, I get it. It's easy to go out and go for a run. It's free. You don't need a whole bunch of equipment. Just don't bite off more than you can chew, and running can be a great solution for you. All right, everybody, that wraps up our Block 11 Ask Me Anything. Thank you to everybody who submitted questions. If you guys have more questions or comments, make sure to drop them below. I appreciate everybody. Thank you guys. You guys are the best members in the world. We'll see you guys next block.